This all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 3 is not dropping in 2020, and I will tell you, if you'll give me a moment here throughout the course of this video, I will tell you why that is indeed the case. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying it's impossible that it can't release in 2020. However, is it probable? No, it's not. So, Spawnwave Media is reporting on this rumor that he apparently received, and a lot of people are taking it with, a lot of credibility. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, like, guys, this is another Joker 2 situation. The Hollywood Reporter, they reported on the Joker 2. They said their sources are saying, oh, it's in the works and this, that, and the other, only for basically the director to come out and say, hey, look, there's not all that much to the Joker 2 as of this writing. So that backfired for the Hollywood Reporter because they were basically clickbaiting. And I think that's exactly what Spawnwave Media is doing. And again, I know it's not what you folks want to hear, but let's get into the facts. We know, folks, Capcom's roadmap. During their financial presentation, they basically laid out the roadmap and said, hey, look, nothing is essentially releasing until all the way March, April 2020. Sure, that leaves a lot, of 2020 open, but I'll tell you this right here, right now, you have to factor in, what about Project Resistance? So if they're releasing that as a standalone title, where is that going to fit in with the release calendar if, of course, this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 3 is dropping in 2020? So you're telling me they're releasing 2 Resident Evil games in 2020? That seems a little far-fetched. What about Resident Evil 8? Oh, are you telling me that this Project Resistance thing is going to be incorporated, embedded into this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 3. I'll tell you this right here, right now. If that is indeed the case, and apparently it is, because there's no way that the A-Team that developed this all-new edition of Resident Evil 2 had time to develop this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 3. So you're essentially telling me that this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 3 was outsourced. You're essentially telling me the folks behind Project Resistance, which is absolute trash, is behind this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 3. And I'll tell you this right here, right now, folks. If that is indeed the case, they can take their game, polish it up real nice, and shove it where the sun doesn't shine. I don't want this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 3 to be half-assed. And it seems like that is indeed the case, especially if the A-Team isn't involved in this project. But you don't care. You never have, and you never will, because you were too busy going, too busy doing stupid, silly crap like that at the end of the day is going to get you nowhere. And you know why that's the case? Because you're a fake Resident Evil fan. You believe this garbage rumor that has no validity behind it, and you're going to sit there and say, oh, Michael, it's coming in 2020. No! Capcom said earlier this year, the producer of this all-new edition of Resident Evil 2 had this to say. He basically said, hey, look, you want to see the potential of this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 3 come to fruition? It starts with the fans. And that's why I campaigned so hard and so strong in these quiet times to remind Capcom that yes, this is something that we are indeed still clamoring for. This all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 3. And now you're sitting there and you're telling me that it's going to be rushed out in 2020 based off of some guy's checkmark, his rumor that he received on his desk? Get the fuck out of here. It is not dropping in 2020, and it just doesn't make sense. That's why it's not dropping in 2020. We know the release window, we know the release schedule, we know what the producer of this all-new edition of Resident Evil 2 said, we know that Project Resistance is a thing, and they have to release that in some capacity, and again, if that is attached, again, we're giving this guy the benefit of the doubt here, if that is attached to this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 3, they can take it and shove it where the sun doesn't shine, because it is trash. Now, here is a possibility. Maybe they do tease this at the Game Awards show. They show a little glimpse of maybe a silhouette of Nemesis. Stars! Maybe they show that. They don't talk about release window. They don't say anything else. They just show a silhouette of Nemesis. He comes to light. Stars! We get a new look at Nemesis. And that's all they need to say. And then maybe at E3 2020, they give us more details. And maybe say, okay, look, this is happening. Here's some more details. Maybe a little trailer. And they say 2021. That would make much more sense. You're sitting there and you're telling me that this is coming in 2020. Again, that implies that this was outsourced. That implies that the folks behind Project Resistance are working on this, and I'll tell you right here, right now, if that's the case, they can take it and shove it where the sun doesn't shine. I don't want this half-assed experience. I want some damn attention to Resident Evil 3. Resident Evil 3 is that game that got swept under the rug. You Nimrods want to talk about Code Veronica day in and day out. Oh, Michael, that's the superior Resident. Then go play that title. okay? But us Resident Evil 3 fans are clamoring for a special experience, a worthwhile experience, a wholesome experience. And again, if the B team is on this, the folks behind Project Resistance, that is absolute garbage. But hopefully Spawnwave Media is wrong, and I do think he's wrong. We've been over this, folks. There's no factual evidence to suggest that it is actually happening, that it is actually dropping in 2020. Don't get me wrong, I want to see this happen, but I want to see it done right. I don't want Capcom or the B team, this outsourced company, to rush out this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 3. It's not happening in 2020, mark my words.